Okay, perfect. All right, thanks, Ross, for setting this up. My name is Lowell Lingo. I'm the Aviation Bureau Director here at New York State DOT, and I'd like to welcome all of you that have come for the Aviation Capital Grant Program webinar. Just for everyone's information, we are committing to doing a second webinar for obviously it's a little bit snowy out there for a lot of you in New York. So if you can't stay for the whole thing or you're otherwise can't attend, we're going to have a second one December next Wednesday, which will be December 21st at 10 a.m. Okay, that being said, this webinar will be recorded. Please mute all your lines. We'll have question and answers at the end of the webinar or in the Q&A. And in WebEx, you can find Q&A in the bottom right-hand corner where there's an ellipsis, 3 dots. You click on it and you can see Q&A and a square box with a question mark on it, or sometimes you'll just see the square box in the bottom right-hand corner or at the top of your screen. So this is what that Q&A dialog box looks like. And if you click on that, you can ask a question at any time. Ross from our bureau, Ross Dewberry, will be monitoring that as we go, and we will answer all your questions if we can. Or if we can't answer them right here, we will post them on the web. Actually, regardless, all questions will be posted on the web. Also, everything that we post relative to this grant program is at www.dot.ny.gov/aviation grants. I'll show you what that looks like. So again, dot.ny.gov/aviation grants, and we'll bring you to our grants site here. Here you'll see we've got obviously the announcement, but most importantly, we've got our NOFA, Notice of Funding Availability and Program Guidelines here. Frequently asked questions, how to improve your application. We have the Smart Growth Checklist and then the Smart Growth Checklist Guidance. Our webinar here is here. The next webinar will allow us to register and join after we finish this one. We'll put in the information for the second one. Very important, January 11th, we'll say it multiple times. January 11th is your application period deadline. It's at 5 p.m. It's not midnight, it's 5 p.m. So January 11th, 2023 at 5 p.m. is when you will have to have all your applications in the Grants Gateway. You have our phone number here, 518-485-7691, and our email, aviation@dot.ny.gov, for any questions you have at any time. All right. Okay, today we're going to be talking about the solicitation basic information, right? Our key dates, what the eligible projects are, and give you some examples. Eligible applicants, which airports are eligible, grant award details, and then solicitation details. We'll talk about the scoring and selection process. What are the smart growth requirements? Wanda Anderson will be talking about MWBE and EEO requirements. She's from our Office of Civil Rights. We'll give you some tips on preparing the application. We'll have a question and answer, and then there'll be an optional Grants Gateway detailed walkthrough. So if you guys haven't had an opportunity or just want a refresher, you can stay on after our question and answers, and Jeff Bila from Grants Gateway will be walking us through in the application how to get into Grants Gateway and what the key items are for when you guys are putting in your applications. Okay, I said I'm going to say a lot of times. Application due date is January 11th at 5 p.m. Don't delay, don't wait till the last minute. So all applications must be sent via Grants Gateway. Any questions on Grants Gateway? We'll go to Jeff and his group. That email is grantsgateway@its.ny.gov. Again, grantsgateway@its.ny.gov. Any questions other than Grants Gateway come to us at aviation@dot.ny.gov. Eligible projects. The Aviation Capital Grant Program is open to public use airports, which are listed in the current State Airport System Plan, the SASP, in categories 1 through 4. Eligible program activities include construction, reconstruction, improvement, reconditioning, or preservation. Also pavement, maintenance, management projects, purchase of airport equipment. Note that the equipment acquired must be operated and stored on the airport property. Also purchase and installation of navigational aids, and projects which address safety issues at the airport are all eligible. Sponsors must keep ownership of improvements, and the projects must be consistent with the latest ALP, and the ALPs must be sent to NISDOT if not federally obligated. The minimum service life of any of the projects has to be a minimum of 10 years. Okay. There are some eligibility criteria. You need to, compliance with the 2004 anti-terrorism legislation is your security and registration that you do with us every 3 years. We will let you know if you haven't registered. You should have gotten emails from us continually for that program, but you need to have your registration current for this 3-year period. Airports need to meet all FAA requirements. Your grant award details. Funding available for this program is $50 million. Just like last time, you have 2 applications allowed, 1 award max. The maximum award this time is $2.5 million. Last time it was 1.5. So we did get an increase to 2.5 million as your maximum award. And application materials. See the aviation website that I showed you to review all the necessary documents. It includes the smart growth materials. It includes the FAQs and the program guidelines, which is the NOFA that I showed you. NOFA is Notice of Funding Availability. The scoring and selection process. Before submitting, make sure to check the web page again for any important updates. We will have all the questions, like I said, from today updated on the website. So anytime anyone's emailing us on questions, we'll keep updating that, as well as the webinar. We'll also post this webinar and the one for next week on the website too. So please go back there and check before submitting. The smart growth checklist. Just know that it's only required if you answer yes to all the threshold questions. All right, so within the scoring and selection process, there is an applicant eligibility pass-fail evaluation. There are 3 different scoring categories if you pass the initial pass-fail evaluation. And then there's smart growth requirements that you'll need to include. So here are the scoring factors. Again, these are the same as previous years. The differences that you will see is we added an energy efficiency and emissions reduction criteria under project factors. So we have under project factors, economic benefit, operational efficiency, safety improvements, how innovative and creative is the project, and like I said, the additional criteria is energy efficiency and emissions reduction. The total points available for those criteria in project factors is 60 points. Then we've got application factors. That's the quality of the grant application. How well is it written? How clear is it? That's 15 points. Airport factors. Potential for attracting aviation activity, that's 15 points. The matching share is 5 points, depending on if you match more, you get more points. Past experience managing grants, that's 5 points for a total maximum score of 100 points. Next up is Wanda Anderson. She will present some important civil rights requirements. And Ross, if you could.
Good afternoon. My name is Wanda Anderson. I'm from the Office of Diversity and Opportunity. I just wanted to point out that this funding is state funded, and they will have MWBE goals included in these agreements. The MWBE goals are applied to contracts that are for labor, services, and equipment that are $25,000 or more. If you're doing any type of construction work that exceeds $100,000, MWBE goals will be applied. We expect that you would make a good faith effort to meet the goal that is in the agreement. For construction projects, the MBE goal is 8%. And the WBE goal is 15%. Again, these are the MWBE goals for construction. There may also be a consultant contract as part of your agreement. The goals for consulting is 19% MBE and 7% WBE. New York State also requires SDVOB goals, service disabled, veteran-owned business goals, and the goals for those contracts would be 6% for service disabled, veteran-owned businesses. Next slide.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Wanda, thank you very much. So preparing and submitting your application. Once you're ready to submit your application, the first step, like we said, before you submit, make sure you go back to our website, www.dot.ny.gov/aviation grants. Check the Q&A. Make sure that you see all the, we want everyone to be able to see the Q&As, have a fair shot at that. So go back to our website as first step. Second step, read all relevant material, prepare your documents and answers. Log in and start your application at https://grantsgateway.ny.gov. Then you're going to fill out your application. All required fields are marked with an asterisk. I've got a note here. Question 4D is marked with an asterisk and is a required field. It is a suffix item for a name. So, unless you have junior or the third on your name, you won't have something to put in there. Since it's required, our suggestion, just put a period in. It's not going to affect your application, but just it is required. So put into question 4D a period in that suffix. That's just an aside. All right. So project data that we talked about that's pass fail, very important. Make sure you check it. We had a couple people fail this area in our last application program. And so just be very, very cognizant of what you're putting into the project data pass fail 5A through 5J. Then you're going to have smart growth threshold questions. Finally, you're going to have project justification fields that can expand. You can cut and paste from like a Word document if you want to prepare that before you get into Grants Gateway, kind of have all your questions ready. That would make sense. And then project budget, entering the amounts and your local shares. The fifth step, print your application a PDF or hard copy. Always do that for any software that you're submitting information on, so you have it for your own records. Then you're going to submit your application and attach any supporting material, including smart growth, as needed. And then here's key. Only roles within, these are software roles, right? Within the Grants Gateway, only roles allowed to submit are grantee contract signatory and grantee system administrator. Jeff will go over that again too, but those are the only two roles that are allowed to submit. Grantee contract signatory and grantee system administrator. Make sure, again, before the last day, that you have someone that has one of these two roles. All right, so application tips. Like I said, be sure to know who your grantee signatory is. Do not wait until the last minute. This is the only person who can actually submit the application, while others can complete the application. So just because you're allowed to work on the application doesn't mean you're allowed to submit. All right, so application tips. Be familiar with the NOFA program guidelines. Print and follow the application instructions. Gather all information necessary to complete your application before starting. Become familiar with Grants Gateway rules and training. If you're not, stay on at the end. Jeff Fila will go through Grants Gateway, and obviously any questions you have throughout the process, his team will be able to answer. Note the Grants Gateway number assigned to the application. This is how New York State DOT will reference your application. Cut and paste lengthy entries into the application. Ensures that your spelling's correct. And like I said, do that in Word. That'll help you out. Save often while you're in the Grants Gateway. Grantee contract signatory or grantee system administrators must submit the application by the deadline with all supporting documentation uploaded. And like I said before, save and print the application for your records. All right, so what are the top takeaways? Final application due January 11th by 5 p.m. Do not wait until the last minute. All applications are submitted through the Grants Gateway. You can't email them to us. You've got to get access to Grants Gateway. Supporting materials are just as important as the justification. This is a reimbursement program with a 10, 20, or 30% sponsor match, depending on your employments at your airport. Online training is available for Grants Gateway. Okay, all right, so if you have any problems or questions, the number for the Aviation Bureau is 518-485-7691. Our email is aviation@dot.ny.gov. You can visit our website at www.dot.ny.gov/aviation grants. And if you have specific questions for Grants Gateway, you can reach them at grantsgateway@its.ny.gov. So at this point, I'll open up the forum to Ross to walk through any question and answers. And you can type questions into the Q&A. Like I said, I showed you where it was. It's right. Typically, it's bottom right of your browser, of your webinar, WebEx. And it'll either be where the 3 ellipsis dots are. And then you can see the Q&A and the square box with a question mark, or you'll see that square box with a question mark just by itself in the bottom right or on the top of your screen. So at this time, yeah, type in any questions you have. And Ross, do we have any questions yet?
Yeah, no questions so far. I'm wondering if it's even working. Maybe somebody throw a question in there just to see if it's working for me. But yeah, no questions so far. You must have explained everything perfectly, and uh, we're good. We're looking good.
That would be a first, Ross.
Well, still no questions, so looks like we can move on.
Okay, and if you have any questions, feel free to put them in while Jeff's speaking, and obviously any questions that you have for Jeff, you can type into the Q&A as well. All right, with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jeff. I just got to make him the presenter. Make presenter. All right, Ross, you gotta make sure Jeff's unmuted, and I will mute myself.
So I'm going to have to find the PowerPoint, since when you make me the presenter, you're no longer presenting it. So give me a second to do that. Which is, of course, not. Let's see.
All right, while you're looking for that, I'll shoot you an
I found
email
it.
too, Jeff. You found it?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, Ross, did you get anyone to put in a question just to make sure Q&A is working?
Yep, I got it tested it out. Seems to be working, so still no questions.
Yeah, it looks like somebody tested. Anthony did send a test message, so we got it, and nobody else has asked any questions. So you should see what I'm sharing now. Is that correct?
Yeah, it looks good. Good to go.
Okay. So I am Jeff Fila. I am what's called a liaison at the Grants Gateway. I work with a lot of the state agencies, and I do this. I do training webinars for potential applicants and for contracts and things like that. So I'm going to go through a few slides here just to talk about the Gateway and what you need to do and remember about the Gateway. And then I'm going to actually log into our test system and be an applicant to show you how to start and submit an application. So keep in mind, I'm not explaining to you how to fill out your, what content to put in your answers and how to fill out the attachments and things like that. I'm explaining to you how to navigate through the Grants Gateway. So as you saw, there's the email address. That's the best way to contact us, grantsgateway@its.ny.gov. If you have questions about your accounts, maybe your airport was registered in 2014 and the people who were registered are long gone, or you forget your logins, email us and we'll help you out with that. I just have to say, be descriptive in your emails. Sometimes people say, hi, I don't know how to start the application. And we're like, well, what application are you talking about? Because there's hundreds of them out there. So be descriptive enough in your email that we don't have to go back and forth trying to get information out of you. I do list a phone number here, but I will say it's much better to email us. We're still 50% on and off in the office, and we're super busy with only 2 or 3 people covering the help desk at any given time. So it's so much easier to handle things through email. A lot of times we need to send you written instructions, so we just prefer email. Someone's saying they can't, we can't log into WebEx and see the presentation as we get stopped at State of New York Enterprise single sign-on. So let me just answer that question, just sidetracking here. I'm guessing whoever's doing that maybe is is on the New York State network, or they have a New York State login, and it's trying to default to that. I don't know how to answer that, though, or how to help them with that. Unfortunately, the good thing is you'll be able to watch the video because it is being recorded. And the last thing here is the grants management website, grantsmanagement.ny.gov. I'm actually going to open that up before I get into the application. That is, where we have our manuals and other information that will be helpful. So all entities that wish to apply for the grants in New York State must be registered in the Grants Gateway. Obviously here, if you're going to apply in the Grants Gateway, you need to be registered in the Grants Gateway. So there's a form you have to complete and mail. You know what, that's a typo. You have to email it. We don't accept actual physical mail anymore. So the registration form on the website has the instructions, where to mail it to, how to fill it out. And there's really three things you need to do. You need to fill out the registration form. You need to fill out what's called a substitute W-9 form, which gets your organization an SFS vendor ID. And you need to send in an org chart. So basically we know the person that's sending this in is the person who has, kind of approval rights to do that. So we need to see an organization chart. That's all in the instructions. I don't need to go through all that. But a lot of your organizations probably already are, one, either registered or definitely have an SFS vendor ID because you've been doing business with the state before over the last, at least 10 or 9 years. And I'll show you that website when I get there, or that page on the website. So Lowell did talk about the roles, and I just want to mention that again. When your organization is first signed up, we sign up only 2 people, 1 or 2 people, and they're in the role of grantee delegated administrator. That's the person who manages your account. So they can add other users, they can delete users, edit, which is not really something you normally need to do. Maybe the person's email address has changed or something, but adding users is the important one, because at that time when you're first registered, you don't have anybody that can work on a contract, work on an application. Well, these next 3 roles can work on applications, right? So the grantee can start, save, and edit an application. That's a role called grantee. So why would you have that and not someone like the next 2, grantee contract signatory or grantee system administrator, who can submit the application? Well, maybe you have a grant writer and you want them to go through and fill out the application, but they're not the one who has the authority to actually submit on behalf of your organization. So that's why we have the different roles. Now you can see the next 2, grantee contract signatory and grantee system administrator, they actually have very similar rights. The system administrator has some rights with another part of the system that is not needed for municipalities. It's called the document vaults, or if you're a not-for-profit organization, they would have access to that. But besides that, again, those 2 roles, like we did say several times already, you need to have somebody in that role to submit the application. So make sure you're in that role, somebody has that role and can log in and see the application before it's too late. And we just keep saying that because unfortunately this happens all the time. In fact, I dealt with an email today about someone who was just, they were literally 17 seconds late to submit their application yesterday at 4 o'clock. And it's too bad they missed it. The rules are the rules. So we want you to be able to succeed. We want to be able to read and evaluate your application. So just make sure you do it ahead of time. So again, delegated administrator is the one who adds accounts but cannot work on applications. Again, the contract signatory or system administrator are the roles that someone needs to have at least one of those. You don't have to have both, but someone needs to be in one of those roles in order to submit it. And this last point, I want to say, one person can have multiple roles, right? So you may be a small organization, or you may be the one doing it. You may be the delegated admin and a grantee contract signatory. That's perfectly acceptable. You can use the same email address. You can even set it up with the same password if you want, but it's going to be 2 different logins in the Grants Gateway. Okay, so there's what's called the forms menu, and there's a lot of arrows here, but it's what I'm doing is just pointing out where to get to it. So the forms menu is, I wish you could see I don't have a pointer, or do I? I do have a pointer. I'm gonna just circle a couple things here. And there we go. So this forms menu right here, that's huge. Well, that's fine. I'm not going to change the size of it. That forms menu, that's where you're going to be, and you'll see me do that in a few minutes. In the Grants Gateway application, that's where all the quote-unquote forms are that you're going to be working on to fill out your application. So there's the project site addresses, the program-specific questions, and that's a big part of it, right? All the questions that you have to answer. The budget, which is, we'll talk about that, and then there's a couple attachments in the pre-submission uploads. So your application is not complete until you've done those 4 sections, and I'll do that in a few minutes. The program-specific questions are questions that you have boxes to fill out answers in. Some of them are yes, no drop-downs. Some of those are looking for integers. And all the questions, before you get into the gateway, you can see them because they're all in the notice of funding, I forget what A stands for, the NOFA announcement, I guess, on pages 19 to 22. So you'll see those there. And I certainly think it may be helpful to prepare some of the questions ahead of time in a separate document. Read those questions, fill it out in like a Word doc, and then when you get to the Grants Gateway, you can copy and paste your answers. There is a page called the pre-submission uploads. That's another form in the forms menu, and that's where you have the option to upload documents, or you are required. For instance, in this case, you can see with this ALP, the Airport Land Layout Plan, and the project budget estimate, they have those red asterisks, and those are required fields. So those are 2 sections you need to upload. But there's other fields here that are not required: the NEPA information, the ROD, and seeker. So those are not required fields because they don't have red asterisks, but they are things that are available to you if you need to upload there. And there's the budget. So the budget is a Excel spreadsheet that you'll be filling out, and that's this up on top here. And once you fill that out, there's one number called the amount of funds requested, which I'm circling here, which you will type into the Grants Gateway budget, which is right here with the other arrow points. So you'll need to fill out that Excel spreadsheet first. You're going to have to attach it to your application, and then you're going to go into the budget section in the Grants Gateway Forms menu, and you're going to fill out that number. And again, I'll do that in a few minutes. There's also there's another page in the budget in the Grants Gateway where you have to kind of split it out, and I'm going to show you that as well. So that's a couple lines from the Excel sheet as well that you're going to pop into the Grants Gateway. And then, of course, submitting the application prior to the deadline. That one of those users in the role of grantee contract signatory or grantee system admin can go to status changes and apply this status of application submitted. And then you do that, you click the I agree button, and then it submits your application. So that obviously I say well before that 5 p.m. deadline. And once you do, I forget if the next slide says this or not, let me just check. Nope. Once you do, the application has been submitted, and there's a couple of ways you'll know this. One of them is you'll get an email, so that's pretty obvious. So I'll show that when I do it in the gateway in a few minutes. Next steps. So number one, obviously make sure your organization is registered. You're never going to be able to start an application unless your organization is registered in the gateway. Again, if you don't know if you are, that's fine. Send us an email and ask us, and we'll be able to look it up for you. Ensure you have individuals in your organization assigned to the correct roles. Download and read the NOFA, the guidebook and appendices in their entirety. We've mentioned that before. Start the application as soon as you can and submit it prior to the deadline. And I strongly suggest 24 or maybe even 48 hours in advance if you can. You never know what kind of technical errors you might find. You might have missed a question, and if you're trying to do this at 4:58 and then it gives you an error, you might have, just lost your time, lost the time to do it. So, we want you all to succeed here. All right, so I don't see anything else in the Q&A. I'm going to now share my screen and get into the gateway itself. So let's see right here. Okay. All right. so I'm in the Grants Gateway. I apologize if the screen is a little narrow, by the way. I have a super wide monitor here, so sometimes it looks odd, but you should see I'm in Microsoft Edge. It doesn't really matter what browser you use. Some of the browsers, there's kind of some funky display issues. Things kind of expand to the right farther than they should, but it doesn't affect the usefulness of the site or your ability to submit or start the application. So I'm at the Grants Gateway. I do want to go to the other two websites just to be quick just to show you those. One is the Aviation website, which Lowell talked about, so dot.ny.gov/aviation grants. And right here, we've got the NOFA, we've got the frequently asked questions. These documents are good information for you, and that's where you should start. Obviously, you've started there at some point because you've been able to join this webinar. The other website is the Grants Management website, grantsmanagement.ny.gov. And that is our website, the Grants Management team, with help for applicants. So you can see, get started, here's the register. So get started, register your organization, gives you information about what to fill out, where to send it to our email, how to fill it out, etc. The other thing is how to apply. So apply for a grant is here under apply and manage. And then under training and guidance, there's frequently asked questions. Now the apply for a grant is probably not that important to you because the documentation that DOT has already provided you gives you a much better and detailed way of applying because they have screenshots of their specific application. So, but it's kind of general information here if you forgot or you just wanted to see it another way. So that's the Grants Management website. And then finally, the Grants Gateway website, which is grantsgateway.ny.gov, brings you here to what's called the portal. So the portal allows you to search for grants, but doesn't allow you to apply because you have to be logged in first. So I can go here to search and search for the word aviation. And if I hit search, I find two of them. Well, one of them is the old one, which in fact I might delete after we have this meeting. But this one you can see 2022, right? So this is the one that was posted on October 28th. The due date is January 11th, 2023. That's obviously the one we're talking about right now. If I click on it, it gives a little bit of information about it, but it's got this view grant opportunity, and all that is a link to the DOT website. So I've already been there, but if I click it, you can see it opens up that same website. So we often get questions from people saying, oh, I've gone to the portal, but it's not letting me apply. Well, because you haven't logged in, and this is not where you apply for a grant. So let's do that. Let's log in and let's start to apply for a grant. I want to point one more thing out. A lot of people have the habit of typing www when they go to a website. Well, don't do that here because you can see when I type in www.grantsgateway.ny.gov, it gives me an error because this is not a private connection. That's fine. That's just the way the state sets up their secure websites or our specific website here. The secure website is only the HTTPS, the non-www version of it. So just go to grantsgateway.ny.gov. Now for me, I'm going to go to a different site because this is our test system, and I'm going to log in and do a fake application. But it looks the same way. All right, so there's that search I did before, which we don't want to do. We want to log in first. So we click on the login, and your user ID is usually it's your first initial last name and a number. If you have a particularly long or short last name, it might be truncated or extended, but that's typically what it is. And if you forget your password, you can click on Forgot Password, and as long as you know your login ID and your email address that it was tied to, you can get a new one reset. If you don't remember those, just email us and we'll help you out. But for me, I'm this person called B Signatory 1, so my last name in this case is the word signatory. And I click on Login, and it's going to log me in. Okay. So it says, welcome, Barbara, and it confirms that I am in one of those roles that we said is important. I'm a grantee contract signatory, so I know I can start an application, but I can also submit it when the time comes. Now, there's a whole bunch of things you can search for. So this top bar here, this kind of gray bar, is things that you can search. You can search in the portal. You can search for applications that your organization has already started that may become beneficial later on. Let's say you have a a grant writer who starts the application, and then you need to log in to find it, to submit it, well, that's where you would search for it. So this is applications that have already been started. Contracts your organization already has. Payments, obviously payments that you would have in the system, and progress reports and tasks. So basically, the only thing you will care about is applications right here. And that's not now, because you can't start an application there. You can only view ones that you've started already. So I'm going to skip down here a little bit because my tasks normally would not be there for you, but I have a task because before we started this meeting, I started an application because I didn't want you to sit through watching me fill out all these mundane sections. So you normally would not have a task. You can also skip the inbox. All that is a copy of any emails you might have received from the system. So you don't really need that. What you do need is right here, view opportunities. This is where you start the application. So I click on view opportunities, and you can either search through here, which might take a while, or you can just type the word aviation and hit search. And these are all opportunities that, based on my login, I'm allowed to apply for. And of course, this is the one we're looking for, the 2022 Aviation Capital Grant Program. So I click on it, and this should look familiar, right? This is the page we saw in the portal, but the difference is this button right here. Now it says apply for grant opportunity. Now it's a little different because it tells me I already have one application in process. Again, that's just because I started one a few minutes ago or an hour ago or whatever, just to get a head start on it. But I'm going to start from scratch here, and it's going to give me a warning that says, hey, you've already started one. That's fine. We know that. But you are allowed to start more than one application. I believe 4 is the maximum, and then you would prioritize them. So this is not something that would never happen. It's just, you know, it wouldn't happen to you your first time you start an application. So I'll click on the button, apply for grant opportunity. Here's that warning, hey, you've already started one. Yes, I know. If you really didn't intend to start another one, you would then go up to applications here and search for it. But I do obviously intend to start another one. Okay, so I'm now in an application. I am application number 25. I'm the 25th person to have started an application for DOT-01 AV 2022-2022. And I'm, like I said, application number 25. We talked about the forms menu before. That's right here. We've now got some green buttons. Menu brings us to this main page. Forms menu is where we're going to be doing all of our work. Status changes is where we're going to submit the application a little later. Management tools, nothing you really need to worry about there. Progress reports and related documents, that's related to contracts in the system, and you won't be dealing with that, so don't worry about that. This little details toggle just shows your organization name. In this case, I'm called Jeffs County Airport, and the status of your application. And the due date, which is 1/11 at 5 p.m. So there's nothing here. We can see there's no project title or grant funds because obviously we haven't done anything yet. But all that is done here under Forms menu. Now notice I can hover on the word Forms and it pops up the menu, but it's a lot easier just to click on the word Forms, and then you'll see the whole Forms menu. Okay, so going through in order here, contract document properties, you can ignore that. These are the documents that would make up a contract if you were awarded one in the system. However, DOT doesn't use the Grants Gateway for their contracts. They were kind of forced to put anything here, but there is the attachment A1, which they uploaded, but not necessary for you to go through. That is the state terms and conditions, the DOT terms and conditions. If you care to read them in advance, you can do that, but that's not part of the application. So contract document properties, you can skip. Print application, Lowell mentioned that earlier. That is probably a good idea to print it. I'm not that big of a proponent of that. You're not going to lose anything in the gateway. It's there forever, quote unquote forever. And the print really isn't that wonderful. You'll see when I do it later, but right now it's of no use to you because you haven't filled anything out. Full version of RFP, that'll bring you to the link to the DOT website. Application instructions, again, link to the DOT website. Application versions, once we submit our application, and after maybe 10 or 15 minutes, a PDF is created with your entire application, and that's what DOT will use to review and rate your application. So that's beneficial, and that'll be here, and certainly you can save it, but that's not until after you've submitted your application, and like I said, maybe 5, 10, 15 minutes because the system has to kind of generate it. So the application is really these sections right here: program information, capital budget, and pre-submission uploads. Now I'm going to skip around because we need to go to the uploads before we do the budget, but let's get here into program information first. So project site addresses, I'm just going to say Jeff's Airport Project, or it could be the name of your county or your organization. So Jeff's Sample County, whatever. Your address, 123 Main Street. Oops. We'll call it Albany County and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, there's a selection for regional council and agency-specific region. These are required. So it's just kind of demographic information, where you are applying from, where your project is, obviously. All right, so I filled everything out and I hit the save button. So that's up here in the blue button or the blue bar. And once I hit save, I get a nice green light saying the information has been saved, and I know I'm done with that page. Now, if I didn't do something that was required, like for instance, I forgot to put in the 123 Main Street, it will give me an error. So I hit save and it says, wait a minute, you didn't fill everything out here. So I'm going to go back here and type 123 Main Street. So that's good. The system knows what's required and what isn't. It's not going to erase what you've entered. You can see the other things I typed in here are still there, but it's never going to let you submit your application unless all these errors are taken care of. So be aware of that, because, again, if you're waiting till the last minute and you try to click it and you have an error, well, you might be running out of time. So I'm going to go back to Forms menu. I just clicked on the word Forms. You can see I saved it at 247:09. And then I saved it again that second time at 247:48. Now, really, the meat of it here is the program-specific questions. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to call it Jeff's Airport Project. And what is the name of the airport? My airport. And what is your FAA code? And then there's some demographic information. So salutation. So this is the airport owner's information. All right, so I'm just going to type in here. Email address. So it doesn't check, like it doesn't have a check that there's an @ symbol and a real address, but obviously you need to write something that makes sense. Your title, organization name, address. So again, contact and demographic information. There is one weird one down here I'm going to point out. We just made a slight mistake in which ones are required and which ones are not. And that is, which one? We required the suffix for the second person, but we didn't require the last name. So if you get here and you start entering the primary contact person's name, you type information here. It doesn't force you to type in the last name. Obviously, that would be beneficial if you did. And it does force you to type in a suffix. So if you don't have a suffix, like junior or whatever, just type in NA. We're sorry about that oversight. And then you would hit save. As you keep going, you would hit save, and it'll save what you've entered. And if you're not done, like I'm not done, it gives you a whole bunch of errors because I haven't finished any of those other questions. Well, that's fine. I can go to lunch, I can come back another day, and everything I've saved is in here, and I can pick up where I left off. Now, I'm going to switch applications because the other one, I filled most of these out, and instead of having you watch me fill these out, I'm going to jump to that one. So I'm going to click on Home, and there's 2 ways of finding an application you've started. So if you personally have started it, you should have the task, and I do. I have 2 tasks. One is number 24 that I opened earlier, and the other is number 25, which I just did with you guys. So I could click on number 24 and pick up where I left off. But if you're not the person, that's the My Tasks on your homepage. If you're not the person who started it, but you want to find it and pick up with it, you can go to Applications, and you can go to search for the word aviation. Or let's say, there's 2 of them, or let's say you know the application number. I know it's 00024. I can do it that way as well. And I find it. So that's under here in applications. This is how you find an application you've already started. So I'm going to pick up with number 24, and I'm going to go to the forms menu, and you can see I have an error on program-specific questions, but luckily it's only one error instead of that whole list. So I went through here and I filled everything out. Now, some of these questions, again, they're all in the NOFA. Some of these questions are yes, no's. Some of them are categories, so a selection of a number. So this document here, we tell you to look at this document and determine what category you are, or 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you type it in here. Some of them are yes, no's. Some of them are, where is that? Some of them are, you have to enter the number that corresponds to your answer. So for instance, number 18. Enter the corresponding letter number combo that best represents the seeker. If record of division the decision has been issued, upload the ROD on the upload page. Okay, so that's two things. First of all, what's your status of seeker? Is it not started? If so, type 18A. Is it in process? If so, type 18B. If it's record of decision issued, type 18C. And if it's NA, type in 18D. So this is part of your application that lets DOT know what is the status of your seeker. A couple other questions that have the same thing. This one would be, let's say, a 19B. Number 19, this is the National Environmental Policy Act. So I'm just going to hit save to update those two that I just changed. And you can see for a lot of these other questions, I just wrote, here's my answer. Some of them have more characters allowed, so I wrote, here's my answer, a whole bunch. Obviously, you're going to have real answers. So I'm going to scroll down here. Some of them are yes, no, or at least number 22 here is a yes, no. And if it's a yes, they want you to type something in 23. So it doesn't force you to type something in 23, but if you did type yes here, you should put in your answer here. So again, all these questions are listed in the NOFA, and you should be aware of what you want to enter into these. So if you did type it into Word, you can obviously copy and paste from Word into here. One thing to be aware of is the word count or the letter count, right? So it counts for 1,000 characters here. And if you go over, it'll tell you, and it won't let you save the page. So if I keep going here, I'm at 1460, right? So I click away, and it gives me this error, data exceeds the allowed length. If I try to hit save, not going to do it. It won't let me save the page because data exceeds the allowed length. So be aware of that as well. And then finally, hit save. And the last time you hit save with everything filled out, oh, I forgot number 13. I was going to say you will get a green light, but I still forgot number 13. Let's go there. And right here. I'm just going to copy and paste this and hit save. So I've completed my program-specific questions. I have a green light. Doesn't mean I can't change them later, but as far as the system is concerned, I'm done. So we're not done with the application yet, though. Let's go to Forms menu, and we need to fill out the budget. But again, before you do, you should really fill out the budget form. So I'm going to go to, I'm going to skip budget, and I'm going to go to pre-submission uploads. So this is where you can attach documents. And you know what? I actually already did it in this, but I'm going to do it again. There's the two sections that have the red asterisks, the ALP and the project budget estimate. So we give you a template. Click here to download the template. And I'm not going to do that because the way of sharing works. I would have to then cancel sharing and share Excel, but this is that Excel template that we talked about. So it's pretty self-explanatory. There's only certain fields you're allowed to fill out, and you'll write in your budget information there. But you would click here to download the template. You'd fill it out, which probably could take, a couple hours over maybe a couple days or weeks, really. That's fine. But eventually you'll be done with it and you'll need to attach it. You just go here to choose file and you go and attach a document. Now I have a bunch here, but I'm just going to attach this sample PDF and hit save. You don't have to hit save right now, but I should have mentioned this earlier. You should hit save every, let's say 5 or 10 minutes. The system will log you out after 15 minutes of inactivity. And back on the program-specific questions page, if you were just pasting in all those fields and never hit save, and 15 minutes goes by, you would be logged out and lose everything you just did. So the act of pasting into a field is not refreshing the timer for the system. The only thing that refreshes the timer is clicking the save button or going to a different page, changing a page, clicking on a menu item. So be sure to hit save every 5 or 10 minutes. So I've just saved my project budget, which is now found here under View File. So the template was here. I downloaded it. I filled it out. I saved it, and then I uploaded it by clicking Choose File, and I attached it. Choose File maybe not be what you see, because I think in Chrome it says Select File, and in Safari might be different, but regardless, there's a button here to upload. Same thing with the ALP. We don't give you a template because that's one of your documents, and you just go here, Choose File, and upload your ALP. So these other documents that we talked about, the ROD, if applicable. Remember I said yes in the program-specific questions? Well, if yes, upload it here. So I could go here and upload my ALP, or I'm sorry, my ROD. Seeker, kind of resolution, smart growth, all these things are not required, but available to you here. And then we have these sections on the bottom, 3 more just in case that, let's say down the road, we realize there was something else you needed to upload, or you realize, hey, there's another document I want to upload. We give you that space for at least 3 other uploads here. So everything should be in PDF format here. We do accept Word and Excel. Obviously, the budget is Excel, so let me rephrase that. Most of these things will be in PDF format, but we do accept Excel, which of course you would use here. But you can't upload like a JPEG or a text file or a zip file. Documents need to be in PDF file. And we point that out here for the plans or drawings. If it's a photo or drawings, it needs to be a PDF, and it needs to be a rather manageable size. The system, we say technically it's 10 megabytes, but really it's closer to maybe 13, 14 megabytes the system will allow. So if you have a 25 megabyte file, it's just not going to allow you to upload it. You're going to have to reduce the file size. So anyway, you've gone in here and you've filled out your budget and you've uploaded it and you've done all these uploads, and I forget if I saved again, so I'll save one more time. And you're not done yet though, because we didn't do that budget. So let's go back to the Forms menu and let's go to the budget section and to the capital summary, or to the capital budget. So you enter in the line item from the Excel spreadsheet into here, and this is what is the type description, item number you can skip, quantity you can skip, unit price you can skip, and total cost. Okay, so this is the total cost may be more than the grant budgeted cost, because there's match or third-party funds. So this is basically the total cost of your project. All right, so I'm going to type in the description. I'm going to type my total project cost, and I'm just going to take whatever I had from that sample before, which was, what was it? I forgot what it was, so I'm just going to put in a round number. Let's say 5 million. Oops, it's 500,000. Okay, so I'm going to hit save. So my total project cost is $5 million, but I'm not done yet. I need to go to the Forms menu and then the Capital Summary and click on that. And I need to tell the system, well, what is the breakdown of that $5 million? What is the grant funds, what is the match funds, and what is the other funds? So those are fields that correspond to the fields in the Excel spreadsheet as well. So let's just say, I'm going to just put in random numbers here. I'm going to say 2.5 million, and I'm going to say 1 million, and I'm going to say 1.5 million. And if my math is correct, I hit save and I get a green light and it's happy. Well, what if my math is not correct? What if I put in 1.5 million here? So now, oops, now I'm obviously over by $500,000. If I hit save, system doesn't like that because it says, wait a minute, you told us that you were your project was $5 million, yet your lines add up to 5.5. So obviously I need to fix that, and I'll put the 0 here, and we'll be happy. The system will be happy again. So I did that, no more errors, and I think I'm done with my application. So I go back to the Forms menu. I've done the program information, I've done the budget, I've done the uploads. The last thing here is the grantee document folder. We prefer you don't upload things here because it's kind of extraneous information. But if something happens and there's some reason you have to upload something, that's what this is for. It's kind of freehand upload. Don't think your project will be viewed more positively because you're giving us more information. We need to review the things that we're looking for, not additional stuff. So, you know, I'm just saying this is here available to you, but, you know, there's probably no reason to use the grantee document folder to upload extra documents. Okay, so Lowell did talk about the print application. It's somewhat useful here. If I click on print application, it gives me the ability to save it. I could save it as a PDF in my case. And I can see, you know, all the answers that I put in here. So that might be helpful. You can go here and you can double check, you know, is there a typo in number 14 or 15 here or whatever. It's not going to give you the attachments you provided. It's not going to give you, obviously, the budget details that you filled out. So really the benefit here is to just review the questions or the answers you provided to the program-specific questions section. So I'm just going to cancel it, but you obviously have the ability to save it or print it or whatever you want to do. All right, so back to my application. I'm done, and I'm going to submit it. You know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to try to submit it with an error first. So I'm going to go back to program-specific questions, and I'm going to forget to put in my airport name, and I'm going to hit save. All right, so I'm going to ignore that. I pretend I don't see that error, and I'm going to try to submit my application. That's done here under status changes, and I apply the status of application submitted. Remember, I'm a grantee contract signatory, so I'm allowed to do that. If you were logged in as a grantee, you would have no possible statuses here. So I apply the status, it does a quick error check, and it says, wait a minute, you didn't answer number 1, and it actually gives me a link to go to that. So I can go back to program-specific questions, and I see, oh yeah, I forgot number 1. I'll type that back in, hit save. Now it should let me submit my application. So I go to status changes, application submitted. It says, are you sure? Basically, are you, you're certifying that you are allowed to sign on behalf of your organization. I click on I agree. And it does some processing. And boom, my application's been submitted. So how do I know it's been submitted? Well, first of all, the details. Before, I didn't really point this out before, but before it was in the status of application in process. Well, now it's in the status of assignment of reviewers. The other thing is that I just got an email that says, congratulations, you've submitted application number DOT01 AB 2022-2022, number 00024. So it tells me, congratulations, I've submitted that. And the third reason, if I had the task on my home page, I no longer do, right? So if I go to home, remember I had 2 tasks here because I started 24 and 25. Well, now I only have 1 because number 24 is no longer a task because it's gone. It's now in the hands of DOT. I can still find it. I can go to applications. I can search for 24, or I can search for aviation, and I can see the status of 25 is application in process, but the status of 24 is assignment of reviewers. I've sent it to DOT, and they're going to assign reviewers to review it. So I'm done. The last thing you can do, you can come in here, you can go to Forms menu, and you can go to Application Versions, and your PDF will be there. Like I said, that usually takes 5, 10, 15 minutes, so I don't have anything here yet, but I clicked on Application Versions, and there would be a PDF right here that I could download or access whenever I needed to. So that is a combination of everything we did, the questions, the budget, and the attachments. So if your attachments are, here's a 20-page attachment, here's a 10-page attachment, here's a 15, it's going to make your PDF that long. And that's fine. That's what DOT is looking for and what they're going to be reviewing. But that's, again, application versions is only available 10, 15 minutes after you submit your application. Oh, or now, because it's all fake, it's right here. So I'll show it to you now that we have it. That was a good timing. Here's my PDF, and I can open it up. I'm just going to zoom in a bit. And this is what your application looks like to DOT after you've submitted it. The name of my organization, the name of my project, application number 24, when it was submitted, how much in grant funds I'm asking for. Remember, this was a $5 million project, but I had 2.5 in match. Who submitted and when. Project site address, remember 123 Main Street. And then all the answers to my questions, right? My airport name and my initials and my demographic or my contact info. And then here's the text of some of the larger answers that I included, and some of the yes, no's, everything that we put in here is in here. Here's my budget with the breakdown of 2.5, 1 million, and 1.5. The attachment that explains what I did, which was, of course, only $5 million, which was $5 million, and the title was Total Project Cost. Work plan you can ignore. That's not something that DOT needs you to fill out, so that was not even visible to you in the Forms menu, but it's here in the PDF. And then here are your attachments. So my attachments were just a blank PDF that said sample PDF document here. Yours, again, would be the Excel budget, the seeker information, all the other, the maps and photos if necessary. So all the other information that you provided would be here and span several more pages. So in my case, it was only 19 pages. Yours certainly will be longer than that. Okay, so that's all I have. I'm going to look if there's anything in Q&A. I'm going to stop sharing. And I don't see anything in Q&A, which is good. So I'm going to leave it up to Lowell or DOT to take control of the audio and let us know what they want to do next.
Cool. Thanks, Jeff. This is Lowell. So I guess what we'll do at this time is we'll stop the recording. So Ross, if you could do that, I appreciate it. What we'll do is we'll post this